there's a sport that back in my high school days, I can't recall even being in existence. And now suddenly I'd say most major schools would have a women's gymnastics team. And the hope in the early stages was, as these little girls were coming up, you know, are you thinking of the Olympics? Are you thinking you might make it that far? And then we came to discover that that was really a dream, a far out, pretty much unachievable dream. Maybe 1 out of 5 to 10,000 girls would ever make it to the Olympics. But then the next level of hope was that if you're good enough, maybe you can get a full ride college scholarship. So there's an example perhaps of how the finances have come to play a little bit in the development of sports.
What do you think about the issue of race in sports?
Well, if you're running in a race, a race is really important. I think back in the 40s and 50s, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and we were pretty ghettoized into our ethnic neighborhoods, and there wasn't, in my recollection, any racial clashes of any kind. I had one black girl in my elementary school, and because she was just one of her black race there, she just became a part of us, and we accepted her. Jackie Baldwin, I still remember her name. And but then I got to high school, which had about 5,000 students on the south side of Chicago, and we might have had at that point, you know, 5% black kids. I can't even remember. There had to be some Hispanic kids, but I can't even remember any. And then there was the issue in baseball with Jackie Robinson, the first black baseball player, breaking into the field of professional baseball, and then my childhood hero Ernie Banks. At that point, race really wasn't an issue. Now I think. And Michigan State University was one of the forerunners here up north as far as universities were concerned. I've heard that in Duffy Doherty's day, he specifically went down to the southern states and began to recruit highly talented black athletes, and that in turn turned the program around in a lot of ways, and it opened the eyes of a lot of people that there were a lot of talented black kids, and you know, now you watch some of the Western State college games, and there's kids from Hawaiian and Samoan backgrounds that are recruited, and so I think the racial issue in sports has been good for the society in a lot of ways, in that it's helped us to realize that we are a society made up of many races and cultures and backgrounds, and that's great. I mean, we're part of, you know, we've always talked about America being the melting pot of the nations.
Now, what do you think about the issue of drugs in sports?
Well, I just saw something about Bill Cosby facetiously running for president of the United States, and he said one of the planks in his platform would be, if any athletes use drugs, they'd be banned from the sport for life and no second chances. So I think the only reason drugs have come into sports is to enhance performance. And that's obviously an unfair advantage. Plus, we really don't know the long-term effects of those drugs on the bodies that take them in all probability, it's going to mess up in some way those lives and those bodies as they age. And secondly, when they're using them at the time, it really is not good because it gives them an unfair advantage over their fellow athletes. So I don't feel very good about drugs, and I don't think they can be defended in any way with sports.
And now, last question we want to ask you here today is, what do you think about the development of women's sports?
Well, first of all, I think that's great that there has been the development of women's sports. On the other side of the coin, I got very much involved in that. I was the founding president, and my wife was the founding treasurer of the MSU Women's Gymnastics Booster Club. And that was when our youngest daughter was a scholarship gymnast. And right about that time, it was called Title IX, came in to enhance women's sports in intercollegiate athletics. And it seemed in the beginning that that was a good thing. But I began to realize, and it became very personalized for us, because the women's gymnastics team and their booster club were very close to the men's gymnastics team and booster club at MSU. And suddenly we started to get word that in order to get a better balance and to meet the demands of Title IX, that more women were going to need to be engaged in intercollegiate athletics. And instead of picking up additional teams, which in fact they did, they developed a women's rowing team, but then they also started to do away with men's athletic teams to artificially get the balance there. So they dumped men's gymnastics. Now, there were some universities that kept both, but in MSU's case, they dropped the men's gymnastics. And that was very, very hurtful. I think they also dropped men's lacrosse, and the fencing team was dropped. Well, you know, fencing was kind of an Olympic sport. It was nothing that any of us ever did in high school, and very few people did in college. So that might have been a sport that was, you know, on the chopping block anyway. But to have something like the men's gymnastics team just lopped out of the school's athletic program just didn't seem right to me at all. So, number one, I am really glad for women being involved in sports teams and athletics, especially at the college level, but I don't like the artificial dropping of some men's sports in order to give women a better chance. And I don't know exactly what the solution is there, but it's just been something that hasn't rested well with me over the years.
Well, thank you for your time today, Don Cooper, and we'll thank you for taking the time out this afternoon to do the interview.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you.